Hello everyone, my name is Liz Hughes and welcome to today's In Conversation with Beck Cole, who I'll introduce in a moment. So firstly, I just want to start off by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we are gathering on today. I'm coming from the lands of the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. I want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders joining us today, wherever you may be. So today we have the great pleasure of talking to the wonderful, super talented and 100% awesome Beck Cole. We will also be joined by some students online and some staff from NIDA, but also we're streaming live on Facebook and we'll have a moment for some questions at the end. But first, let me introduce Beck. So Beck Cole hails from Alice Springs. Beck has worked in most corners of Australia, writing and directing a wide range of award-winning drama and documentary projects. These include short films, very impressive ones, a feature film, Here I Am, documentary series, First Australians, The Untold Story of Australia, and numerous documentaries, including Making Samson and Delilah, children's animation series, Little J and Big Cuz, an awesome TV series spanning Indigenous sketch comedy, Black Comedy, powerful episodes of Redfern Now and Wentworth. Hello, Beck.
Hello, Liz.
So I thought it might be good, because when I first met you, you were already a very sophisticated person at a certain young age, but over 20. And I thought it'd be fantastic to find out a bit about you and where you got your interest and inspiration from.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Alice Springs and Adelaide, so bounced back and forth from the two towns, which is really common when you're from sort of the Central Desert. And probably my interest in film and media came from probably my dad, who was the CEO of Karma Productions, which is the Central Australian Aboriginal Media Association, because I come from a large Aboriginal family in Alice. So, yeah, and I was exposed to sort of radio and production and things like that through him. And then I got a gig when I was about 17, actually, at ImagineNative Television, which is actually the first Indigenous-owned television network in the country at that time. It's since been sold to 7 or 9 or something. But yeah, so then I got a cadetship there and went to uni and went to film school and worked at ABC and you know how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And can you tell us, I mean, I suppose where did you sort of, what was your first interest? Do you remember there was kind of a moment in time or there was something that you watched that you found particularly inspiring or?
Yeah, I think because I was in Alice and ImagineNative was so new, it was really just groundbreaking to have our own television station and Aboriginal faces and language on telly. And I don't think, because I was quite young then, I realised how significant that was to sort of be a part of that piece of history, really, and to grow up being exposed to it. So I always was interested in both. I think I wanted to be a journalist originally, and I did a cadetship in journalism and went to uni and just didn't find that the journalism students were my people. And I sort of gelled more with like the media production folk. So I kind of gravitated that way and the rest sort of became history, really.
So in terms of, I mean, there's been, if I look at actually, so I've been having a bit of a festival of Beck Cole. Like literally I've watched pretty much all of your short films. I've watched your feature film. I mean, I've rewatched them. I watched them before as well. Redfern Now and Making Samson Delilah. And what's really incredible about your work is that they're all really great stories and the acting's really good. And I would love to hear more about how you work with actors. What's your process? What do you do? How do you do it?
I think you learn by making mistakes, and some of my work have bits of performance in them that could have been a lot better. So I think as you sort of work more and learn more about yourself and find your own voice and confidence as well, you just innately become better at working with actors. But for me, that is the highlight of my job. Like as a director on set, now I'm working sort of in really fast TV land on Wentworth and shows like that with amazing cast as well. You just pick up your speed and you pick up ways of communication. And I think for me, I really love and admire actors. Like I just worship that space. And I'm one of those directors that would rather do a really good take with a strong performance then get lots of coverage of lots of stuff that I know I'll be cutting around. You know what I mean? Like I really do focus in on performance, and I have great sort of relationships with the actors that I work with.
Yeah.
I hope they'd say the same about me.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah, I've had made lots of great friends too. So yeah, I think it's just respect. And I think as a director, often there's so many directors that probably won't admit it, but they're actually really scared of working with actors. It's sort of like this scary space. It's like sometimes you don't know as a director what you're meant to do in rehearsals. And once you kind of sit down and go, okay, this is, and every project, of course, is so different. So you have to really design your brain around every film or every project, I think. But at the heart of it, if you don't have a good performance from your actor, you're not going to have a good show. So, you know, I just can't really say that it's so important. It's the strongest and most important role you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm also talking about directing. Can you talk a bit about when you're looking at trying to put together a group of people, a crew, or collaborators, sort of how, you know, what are you looking for?
Well, I guess for me, I've been blessed with working with a lot of really beautiful people over a really long time now. So for me, it's about keeping those connections and keeping those collaborations alive and going. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing, you know, and because my career's kind of advanced and everyone around me has too, to a degree, people become sort of less available and you've got to juggle things, and you are sometimes forced to work with new people. But I mean, I think the bottom line is you just need to always work with people that you love and trust, and that love and trust you. Like, it is such a personal trip that you're on, like it's really intense, and if you're with someone or a group of people that you don't really gel with, you're just going to have a terrible time, and that's not what, you know, creating is about.
Absolutely. And so you talked to us briefly about learning from making mistakes when you're learning about directing actors. Can you think about what are the kind of, in a way, that the biggest mistakes you've made that have enabled you to do the biggest learning?
Biggest mistakes I've made. It's an interesting one. I don't know if you could look at things as mistakes more so than lessons, you know. In my feature Here I Am, I did a sort of really hybrid film that is set in Port Adelaide, and it's about Aboriginal women in a women's shelter. And it was really important to me at that point to cast as much as I could from women from that community. And that was a gamble in terms of casting non-actors, which is something that I really enjoy doing. And, you know, and you've got to give people a chance too. Some of them had a little bit of experience, but most of them didn't. And, you know, some of the performances are a little bit, you know, up and down, not so strong. But then I think you have to just look at that and go, well, that's a particular project that at the time I really believed that it needed. Yeah. And funnily enough, that film Here I Am, although it basically was in the cinemas for like 2 seconds, is the film that I always get asked to screen at places, like, constantly. So it's funny how work, you know, and it's such a public platform, this. So when you're doing films, theatre, writing, whatever it is, you know, you've got to have a thick skin, because people are really ruthless with their criticism and critique of your work. And you just say, well, you know what, you're not brave enough to do it. So, you know, you have to have a thick skin, and you have to not get, you know, beaten down by that. Yeah. But also there's a lot of beauty and positivity in the work.
Absolutely. I mean, talking about the skills that I suppose you need, I mean, we've got, you know, a number of students who are, I'm sure, listening in right now. And, you know, they'll be, obviously we've had COVID, but, you know, just in the industry more generally, what are the kind of, I suppose, what are the skills that you need, like, nowadays? As, you know, have they changed, and what are they? What are the kind of key ones you think are really important?
I think always keeping yourself busy, and, you know, listening to a lot of music, reading a lot of books, just keeping your brain open and your creative juices flowing in dark times is a real lifesaver, I think. And it's also really good to have breaks from it, because, you know, particularly when you're young and starting out, you feel the pressure of your ambition, and it's such a great thing and it drives you, but you can also get really spent by it. So I think I think you have to be really flexible. You have to, you know, a lot of people, I remember when I was starting out, would talk really negatively about the experience, you know, how you're always poor and funding agencies, this, that and the other. And I think all of that's true to an extent, but really, if you become addicted to the craft and addicted to this lifestyle and addicted to the desire to tell stories, you're addicted. I mean, you're doing it for life, which is how I feel like. I don't even think I could get a job in any other industry because I just don't have any other skills. But, you know, that's been a choice. So, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think when I think about, you know, because I had a similar training and as a filmmaker,
Yeah.
and I think about those skills and the jobs I'm doing, even at the moment at NIDA, they're all kind of similar, really, because you're kind of, you know, working with a group of people, you're kind of, you know, trying to harness the best of the team and make sure that you're bringing great people to work with.
Yep.
You talk through the vision and ideas, and in a way, I think filmmaking training or creative training really gives you a whole bunch of sort of life skills if you apply them, you know, implement different things. So I think you can get lots of jobs, Beck.
Oh, thanks, Liz. But no, you're right. I mean, it is. You become part of a creative community, and that can become really expansive, which is beautiful, I think.
Yeah. And what sort of attitude do you think is important to take out in terms of when you're engaging with others?
Well, you know, no one likes an arsehole. No one likes dealing with arseholes. I think a lot of people, particularly when they're young and gung-ho, and when I say young, I mean emerging in their career, and I'm not talking about age, they feel like they need to present a certain way and, you know, be really clear and have all the answers. But the truth of the matter is you don't have all the answers. And the best thing that you can do is surround yourself with people that you can ask the stupid questions to, and they will not judge you and steer you in the right direction. Like, really, I don't think any of us would be where we are in our sort of careers without people having our backs. Like you, Liz, have been a huge inspiration to me.
Looking right back at you.
You know, and so I think it's just be true to yourself, be kind. I mean, you just have to be kind, really. Like, seriously, no one likes to be belittled or talked down to. And, you know, in the fast-paced, stressful environment that is being on set or, you know, on stage or whatever it is, you can often sort of remind yourself to pull your head in and just open your heart, because it's, I mean, I don't want to sound all wishy-washy, but it is so true.
Yeah, totally agree. So I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about, I watched Making of Samson and Delilah again, and I went back in time. It was kind of fantastic to kind of, in a way, share that journey of the production through the documentary. Can you talk a little bit about Samson Delilah and the making of the documentary? And I mean, it was a pretty monumental moment in Australian film history, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, well, the director of Samson Delilah is my former partner. So we'd lived together already for 15 years or whatever, 10 years at that point. So we were both collaborating on all our films all the time. So we knew each other very, very well. And I remember when Warwick first told me about Samson Delilah, it was probably over a few beers, no doubt it was. I remember saying from the go-get, I know I'm making the doco, because I make features and drama, and documentaries actually my true love. So, yeah, so straight away I knew that there was a story behind the story, because it was going to be a feature film set in the bush, basically, 2 kids dealing with petrol sniffing, community life, language, you know. These paintings actually behind me are by Mitchell in that Samson Delilah, who plays Nana. So if you've seen it, she's just was a hilarious woman. Amazing. Anyway, so it was just, you know, just having that, like being a hound dog for good story is what you need to be, you know. So sniffed that one out and just shot it myself, one-man band, sort of light and easy. So I had as much access as I could. And because I was part of the family of the film, I was able to go under the radar, which is so important for observational work like that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a pretty amazing moment, sort of just watching that film take off too.
Yeah.
It was incredibly exciting, I think.
Yeah, it was really unexpected. But that was also, you know, when I think about Samson Delilah, because it was made for $1 million, like nothing. I mean, not even Baz Luhrmann's catering budget, let's be honest. It was less pressure, I think, and more freedom. So I think for, I don't know, artists and emerging sort of creatives, it's important to know too that you can do amazing work without all the strings attached, and to take the pressure off yourself, and to use these experiences as you're developing as a playground of creativity. And, you know, there's always pressure to a degree, but you can be truer to yourself and your vision, I think, when you don't have all that sort of weight on you. So I think, you know, we did a really wise job of managing that production in that way. Yeah,
it was amazing to watch it. And I think it felt very free, the way that it was, you know, and that freedom sort of came across in the documentary, and it was kind of exciting to go back in that moment, for a moment.
And it's funny too, you know, just watching kids on set, nervous and boy and girl energy and all the sort of cultural nuances of that. And, you know, I love sort of dipping my foot into comedy land. So, I don't know, it's a bit of a laugh too. Yeah. Warts and all, as they say.
So can you talk about sort of expedited kind of career learning? So, I mean, I imagine that there's, I mean, from when I look at, you know, short films to feature films to fast turnaround TV, can you talk about sort of like those kind of like gear shifts, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, you know what it's like. It's kind of like going to TAFE, then getting into uni, then doing your master's, and then doing your doctorate. You know, it's all education, and you're always learning. I mean, I think that's the real beauty of this industry, is that everything's a new challenge, and you are always learning. And I think it's really important too to be really, well, for me, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I really like branching out and working diversely. So I have recently done some children's animation, which is great. I do a lot of kids stuff as well, because I love working with young actors. So I think it's just pushing yourself, always being, you know, willing to do work within new genres, or, I mean, I think it's more that sort of thing. And, you know, going to courses in whatever, all sorts of different sort of, you know, spaces within the industry, I think is helpful too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of ways people can sort of progress through the industry, but it's mostly just by dedicating yourself and doing the best job you can with the job that you're on. I think that's something that I really work hard to do. Like, I always try and raise the bar for myself that little bit more. Yeah. And it's a real personal thing. No one else probably knows that or cares. but I've always liked to have a little challenge, you know, something that scares the hell out of me.
So what would your next challenge be?
Oh, well, at the moment I'm doing some writing, COVID, you know, so it's a good time to be writing. And I'm really keen to do another doco. So I'm just trying to work out what's next, you know. There's never any guarantees. So there's always a lot of balls in the air, but who knows what's going to fall. So,
I mean, I look at all the work you've done. I think, you know, you've kind of, you know, mastered storytelling in documentary and narrative formats. And as you say, you go across different genres, and from kind of a ghosty thriller, would that be Plains Empty?
Yeah.
To incredible stories in Redfern Now, for example. Those episodes were amazing. I was crying. Yeah. In fact, I watched the first one you directed, the Pokies, and then I was crying, and I found I was crying an hour later. I was watching the next one. I was like, what's going on? And then you've got, and then the other extreme, you had, you know, black comedy as well, which is, you know, fantastically fun and very humorous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of the way it's rolled for me, because I mean, black comedy was loads and loads of fun, but it was just as stressful as anything else too, you know, because you're actually telling 20 little stories in an episode versus one big narrative story. So it's still a lot, and you've still got to tell a story within a story. So it was a really big learning curve, actually. And also super duper fast, you know, like so fast. And, you know, so it's great. It's just all those things. Not that speed is, you know, the answer to everything, because I don't think it is. And sometimes I feel like I find TV, I love it, but it's like, oh, I wish I had an extra half a day for that scene, you know, because I would love to have delved much more deeply into it, but it's the nature of the beast. So.
Yeah. So what about emerging technologies, telling stories on new technologies? Are you interested in that area, or performance, or,
Am I personally interested? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I probably am like 10 to 15 years too late, but I've just discovered all these channels on YouTube and Vimeo. So I've just started watching all this stuff in COVID times, which has been great because it's like short films that you never get to see unless you're going to festivals, and who's got time to go to festivals? Whenever there's a good film festival and I'm on a shoot somewhere, so I always miss it. So I've been just really interested in exploring what other people are doing around the world, and that's a really great way of accessing it. But for me, it's just, I've got a lot of projects that I'm still developing and ticking over my head, some of which, my mum goes, what's happening with whatever project? That's 7 years ago. And I'm like, yes, Mum, that's natural. That's the way it goes. People just don't understand how long it takes.
Yeah.
But I'm keen to do whatever, a bit of theatre, bit of all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
The more the merrier.
So you mentioned about how you love documentary. What do you love about documentary in particular? What's so powerful?
I think it's the hardest thing to make. Like, as a filmmaker, it's definitely the biggest challenge. People that you make docos with are in your life forever. Yeah. There's so much responsibility that goes beyond producers and funding bodies. There's like a human responsibility behind it, which is frightening and propels you just to make the best work, I believe, that you can. And also I like to shoot things myself, so I feel a real sense of independence.
Yeah.
And it's very much my point of view.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but also I've made documentaries that are real traditional, like First Australians, which is interviews and archival material, which, to be honest, doesn't interest me as much as the more observational type of film making.
Yeah. So look, I know I had a chat to you the other day. I was interested. Often fast turnaround TVs are it can be a tough environment, depending on the context, and it can be quite male dominated as well, to be frank. Yeah. I think the last thing I directed was fast turnaround TV. Yeah. And there weren't many women heads of department at all. Yeah. So have you sort of had any like challenging situations in terms of, gender, or just in terms of negotiation, with heads of department? Like, tell us about that.
No, I haven't. Like, I've always, I could honestly say I don't think I've ever been discriminated against because I'm a woman. And I think that comes perhaps from a place of being Indigenous and maybe coming from a school of sort of Indigenous filmmaking when it was really hitting its stride. And so I sort of was pushed through my career pretty quickly and with a lot of support, which meant that, and I have the personality where I am not an arsehole, but I do not suffer fools. So I will tell someone how I feel pretty quickly. And I'll surround myself with people that I love and trust as heads of departments as well. I mean, sure, there's probably stuff being said that, is a little bit on the nose or a little bit dated, but even on Wentworth, which is such an amazing, strong female cast, there's so many women working in so many other departments, and, it actually is a really diverse cast as well, and crew. So it was just fantastic.
Yeah. I think you've got some NIDA alumni in that cast, actually, I noticed.
Oh, yeah, too.
Vivian and... sorry, now I'm...
probably Zoe as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's loads, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is loads.
Yeah. So I'm just sort of, we can probably open up to questions if there's any questions that are coming through. Okay. I think, given that there'll be some students who, we've had, so the industry was already kind of, something where you navigate your way through, and there's lots of, I look at it and I think there's lots of opportunity. That's been my experience of it. But I think given COVID, there's a bit of there's a bit of nervousness, I suppose, because, what's changed. But I think there's also been some opportunities during COVID too. Can we maybe just sort of drill into what the opportunities sort of potentially have been through COVID? Because all I know is I keep trying to, engage with people and see whether they may want to be employed as a guest speaker or whatever, and they're really busy.
Yeah, well, I've been flat out. I think the beauty of it has been that we can have chats like this. Like, prior to COVID, I would have had to have flown to Sydney, been away from my daughter. It would have been bigger than Ben-Hur, you know. As a single mum, it's hard to get around too. But and lots of, I'll tell you what has happened. Like I've got a script that I've been working on for a few years, and I just managed to ring up a whole group of friends, many of which are fantastic actors, you know, amazing actors, who I just said, look, could you just do a read through with me? We all got a bottle of wine and got on Zoom, and I had an actual reading of my feature script, and it was just so helpful, and everyone just did it as out of love for me, you know. And I don't know, it was just really kind and generous. I think COVID sort of shown me how generous the industry can be, big time. Like I've had a lot of opportunities pop up, and I've been so busy, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, that's great. And also people can start just hunkering down on their own stories, do some more writing, you know, all of that stuff.
A bit like a regrounding or a resetting of, you know.
I've done full-on story rooms also via Zoom. I actually did a story room. I went to the Northern Territory recently and was in quarantine in Darwin, and did a full-on story room for 3 days via Zoom in this little dog box, and it saved my mind. Like I think I would have lost my head otherwise. But you know, so there's those sorts of things. Yeah. And
so, what are the stories you want to tell, Beck? What are the ones that you connect to? I mean, I do feel like there's a bit of theme. There's often strong women in your stories.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's always the same ideas that I've been sitting on for years and years that I've sort of shelved, and it's natural to do that, that I keep going back to. So I've been working on a horror genre film set in Alice Springs. I'm really interested in Indigenous kids in care and that system. So this is my way of delving into that through genre. And I'm interested in tent boxing and the history of, you know, showmanship in Australia. So there's a project on that. Yeah, it's kind of the same projects that I've been building up my personal skills and confidence to actually be brave enough to tackle. Yeah. You know, and you have to be confident and brave. These are big set pieces too, you know.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to, there's a point where you just got to go, oh, am I ready for that yet? And the answer is always going to be no, because who's that confident, you know? But maybe you are. I don't know.
So we've got a question that I might ask you that's just come in. So it's the Tina, I don't know who Tina is, but asks, I'm trying to make the shift from extra to actor. Do you have any helpful hints on how to make that happen?
Extra to actor. Go and see some casting agents, go and do some courses with you guys. But branch out, skill up. That's the best way to go. You know, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Skill up, go and do the courses and
meet some people.
Network.
Yeah, and so on that, if you, going back in time, if you were coming out of a a training organisation like NIDA at the moment, what would you do? What would be your, how would you navigate? You know.
Oh, okay. If I just finished with this, how would I navigate?
You know a lot now, Beck. You see, so I can ask you that.
Yeah. Well, look, I think network, don't feel like you can't continue to work with people that you went to NIDA with. Like I still make films with people that I went to the film school with, and we'll always do that. You create your communities and your little networks and your little friendship groups, and there's nothing more exciting than going on and experiencing your creative life together as well. I mean, I think creative relationships are like little marriages, really. So network, make sure you go to all the events, support, other people that have got their plays on, or, just support each other and be present, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I rate, we were talking about kindness before, and I think I really rate kindness and also curiosity. If it was me, I'd be thinking about, what am I really interested in? What don't I know about that I could find out more about, And if there's people that I've always kind of thought were interesting, I think I'd probably just reach out to them.
Absolutely, and attach yourself, like get internships and attachments to projects and people that you admire, because you'd be surprised how generous people are, you know, and how willing they are to get people under their wing. I certainly am, and I know lots and lots of other people that are too. So
yeah, don't
be ashamed to ask, really, and don't be ashamed to put yourself out there, because that's what people admire and remember. Like, people remember memorable people, right? So they're the people that, you know, are asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we talked the other day about the importance of, you know, collaboration more broadly.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it feels like the industry is a bit more fluid now. It feels like a lot of the sort of silos or even the hierarchies are breaking down to some degree. Mm-hmm. And you may have an expertise in one area, but that doesn't mean, for example, if you're an actor, that you can't be a writer or a director. In fact, that's kind of common nowadays.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about the importance of collaboration for you as a creator, and how you make sure that you're collaborating with the people you want to collaborate with?
Yeah, I mean, like I've sort of said, I do work a lot with the same people, but recently I'm working more and more with people that I don't know that well. And I mean, I've got a manager, Emma, who's just my fantastic sounding board, you know. So I've gotten to a point in my career, I guess, where I've realised that I needed someone that I could talk to about things that were coming in, being offered to me, because there's a difference between being desperate to do whatever comes at you to doing what's right for you. And that's what I've learned in the last, you know, a little while, or, you know, the last 10 years, 5 years or so, is that you've got to navigate your way to build your own career. And you've got to, if you want to do the projects that because, I mean, let's be honest, any project's going to take 6 months of your life. And all in all, we don't have time in life to do many projects, you know. It's a ticking clock, so you've got to do the ones that mean something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got another question here. I'm a theatre artist. Can you recommend any platforms for participating in online plays and enhancing my craft?
Oh, online plays. That's not really my area. You probably have better answers to that, Liz.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really, I mean, there are definitely different production houses that have kind of pivoted and shifted gear. And theatres that have done that as well, but I'm not sure if there's necessarily a platform per se. I mean, maybe this is the right question about, maybe it's about creating those platforms, but yes, I don't really have any specific.
I know that Obituary's got some stuff that they're putting online. I know that the Sydney Theatre Company's showing works and having actors read, you know, on Zoom, and, you know, that's been an interesting new way of doing it, just to keep people busy and the community alive. Yeah. But sorry, I'm not really the.
Yeah, that's okay. And what about, so you also play a bit of a role in terms of, you work for some of the screen agencies in terms of you're reading a whole bunch of scripts that are coming in. You know, I mean, you don't have to tell us all about those scripts, obviously, but what are the kind of themes that are coming through, and where do you think the opportunities are that you're not seeing when you're reading some of the scripts?
I feel like there's always sort of like a collective consciousness within storytellers. Like, there's always common themes. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing sort of external assessing for quite a few years now, so I do read a lot of new works, which for me is really helpful, because as a writer, you should always be reading a lot of work anyway. But I think there's room for sort of actors and performers to sort of, you know, be the captains of their own ship a lot more, to be honest. I think there's room for younger, newer, more diverse voices and faces. I think that there's room just for braver storytelling across the board, really. But you see so many interesting projects come through. So, and less of the old sort of stuffy names that have been around forever, and fresh stuff. And what I love is, like, more experienced people collaborating with younger people, and that mix that can come to a story room, you know, or rehearsal space or whatever. Yeah, so there's loads of opportunities.
Yeah.
And all of those funding bodies, if people are interested in sort of screen stuff, they have so many initiatives going on. Like, just always get online and check them out. Screen Australia, Film Vic, all of them that are just desperate. Even like the SAFC, people that are, or the Adelaide Film Festival, often the film, festivals have their own little initiatives. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a real, hunger, for new stories. And let's face it, we've all been watching Netflix and Stan and, Hulu, et cetera. And at some point there'll be we'll need replenishment of content pretty quickly, I would have thought. So,
absolutely. And we need more Australian content,
Yeah.
I could bang on about that for hours, but I won't. But yes, I don't know about you, but I can't even put Netflix on now. Even I just find it so, I don't know, not the sorts of work I want to be seeing. I'm into the SBS on demand, the more sort of indie stuff from around the world is much more interesting in my point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're getting towards the end, Beck, but is there anything you want to say or tell everyone or, share in particular?
I just think enjoy your time at NIDA and, use it as a big sort of toy shop. Don't look at this time of your life as a time to prove yourself and make the blockbuster, because it's not really what that's about. You'll have all that pressure on you later. So find the people that you want to party with, go and have beers with, cook food with. I think that's the beauty of, places like NIDA. And the communities and friendships that you make are, the most important thing, really.
Absolutely. I love referencing the importance of experimentation. Yeah. and trying out bold new ideas and really making the most of that opportunity. And
absolutely.
Yeah, when I think about when I was a filmmaker, one of the things I was always concerned about was I had one little short film that was successful. I wanted to have that feeling over and over again. So I kept trying to kind of replicate that. But obviously, I think that, I think it makes you stuck, as opposed to if you're having an opportunity to experiment and think and try new things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now's the time to do that. Really, just be brave, be bold, make mistakes, i.e. learn lessons. That's what you really will get out of it and learn from. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I think that's probably a good point to leave it. But thank you very much, Beck. And I want to thank you on behalf of me, but also all the audience out there. And it's great chatting to you.
Great chatting to you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.